Welcome to the Freedom Founder Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Duggar. Now, you may be one that has something in your life that has spurred you into considering an opportunity to engage in entrepreneurship or into that new business or into something greater than you thought you'd ever be able to accomplish. Now, my guest today has his own personal story. I'd like to welcome Jake Tullis to the show.
Thanks, Zach. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I've been an entrepreneur since birth. It's how I see it. So it's a topic close to my heart. I'd love to help
Absolutely.
anyone on their journey.
Yeah, well,
Me here.
let's talk a little bit further about that. I mean, what kind of things got you started in the entrepreneurial space? Or when you say I've been an entrepreneur since birth, give me a little
Yeah.
bit more on that.
I don't have kids, but I feel like when I hear the stories of how I was even at like 2 or 3 years old, it was very indicative of how I would grow up. Like, you couldn't really punish me, I had authority issues, I wouldn't listen to anything, really struggled with, like, being told what to do, always had questions of, "Why is it this way?"
Mhm.
Frustrated generally that no one asks why, we all just kinda put our heads down and do what we want, like, talking at 5 being bothered by not knowing why something, is the way it is. I remember
Yep.
arguing many times, "Why do I have to wear a seatbelt?" It's those small things, but as it manifested as I aged, I needed money, when I was 13 and tried to get a job, tried to no one would hire me. It was kinda left to just mow lawns so I could basically get all these components to build a PC, so I
Yep.
could play World of Warcraft. That was, like, my ambition, and, I tried getting jobs after that from, like, 13 to probably 14 to 17, and I got fired from every one. I really, really struggled. So I just stuck with the computer stuff, man.
Yeah.
Did PC repair, set up POSs for local businesses in the area, taught myself how to code websites, phone apps, and then just kept doing that and started a software development company and haven't really looked back, just
Yeah.
since I was probably 17. So when I say I was born, I just feel like I was always hustling. If you were to ask anyone from my youth what he was like, they would have said he always had something going on. I was
Yep.
trying to sell you gum. I was trying to show you, where all the cool spots were on the river for $10. I always had something, like always. If so, and even now as an adult, I got 4 businesses that I feel like I needed an offering in every facet of life is basically
Yeah.
how I looked at it. So, yeah,
Yep.
it's a tough journey, but I do feel like you're born you can learn to be an entrepreneur. I think that's
Yeah.
really hard. I think we all learn how to be one. I just think some people are more natural at it than others. I would say
Sure.
that. Like they have certain aspects of their life that
Yeah.
entrepreneurship is great for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that you had found a why even early on so you could get into some, some computer components. So that was a kind of a driving why. And that's one
Oh
of the
yeah.
reasons that one of the questions that people will ask themselves, what is your why? Or somebody will ask them, what is your why? Because you got to have that. You got to have a reason for what you're doing and the work that you're putting into it. So, I mean, for
Certainly.
what you're saying, it sounds almost like it was just a natural path into that process, and that you've been able to go from square one to two to three to four and continue to grow and develop. Any roadblocks along the way? Anything that really kind of threw you off the path that you had to
Oh yeah.
overcome?
Oh yeah. Yeah. You don't do entrepreneurship for what, 13 years now or 12 years now without serious problems,
Mm,
serious things. You don't get to the level I'm at, which, I'm content with, but there's many more levels above where I'm at. I'm only 29.
sure.
Um, yeah, you're going to get knocked down. One story that hopefully no one can relate to, but I was in college and I had a software development company called Elosophy, and we were in college. I grew that to about 6 figures in gross revenue, and I had a bunch of contracts lined up. And I took the down payments for them, and my partner basically robbed me and stole
Mm,
everything. Um, ended up in a lot of like legal problems because of that. He defrauded me and all the other people I brought in to it, my family. I had to dig myself out of a hole for,
Mm,
I don't know, 3 years after that. And then I had multiple startups after that with investors who just didn't see the vision or
mhm.
were uneducated in technology. And
Yep.
I had to learn a lot about who I can trust and why I can trust them. And I've gotten very good at that filter. And it's a
Mhm.
hyperfixation on someone's character. But the um the biggest pitfalls is I really don't like putting blame on anyone. Like I
Sure.
ignored red flags, I wasn't able to navigate those waters. I was too young. I had no mentor, no coaching, didn't know what I was doing, didn't even
Yep.
understand what owning a software development company meant really. I was just 19 trying to get paid on bigger contracts in my
Mhm.
mind. And it hit me over the head for years until I grew, learned, and adapted, and was able to find my calling. And it just took not giving up. It was probably I've probably been up 5 years out of 12, you
Yeah.
know.
Sure.
Um, and that's the last 3 years I've been up, and it's been crazy. It's almost like a switch hit. It feels exponential. This is
Yeah.
my, 3rd year. It's been wonderful, but, um, yeah, it's a lot of pitfalls, and that should be expected if you're thinking of going on your own. There's a reason why you get paid and benefits and it's comfy and safe. It's because someone at some point in time went through all of that stuff and much worse, most likely over 30 years,
Sure.
um, to give you that place to work.
Yeah.
So
Someone had to take the risk. Right. Absolutely.
with risk comes responsibility. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people in that decision matrix really do neglect responsibility, and I'd argue how you handle responsibility truly is all that matters as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur. I think it could be whittled down to exactly that and your perspective of responsibility. I've met a lot of entrepreneurs that don't feel responsible. They'll
Mhm.
raise money or they'll just behave like they aren't beholden to the people who believe in them and other things. And
Yeah.
it's a difficult thing, entrepreneurship in general. It doesn't really matter if you're starting a
Yeah.
power washing business, which I have, or if it's a hedge fund, which I have, which are probably on opposite ends of the spectrum
Right.
entirely. And I'm telling you, it's the same. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what you're doing. It's the same.
Well, I want to come back to that, but I want to ask you, you mentioned red flags that you just didn't really identify early on, but now you've kind of experienced it through experience. What are some
Yeah.
red flags if somebody is getting into a relationship with others, either in a partnership or an investor relationship? What are some red flags that you may have now learned through time and experience that you could share with others?
So many, but the majority of them it could be summed up in an equation.
Yeah.
If you hear a definitive statement of someone's character and then they contradict it, I would just run. So if
Okay.
someone says, I'm an honest guy, or I always pay the tab for blah, 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 I always do this, I always do that, as people talk and they converse.
Hmm.
And like I have a gift, I have a very strong auditory memory, so I can
Hmm.
remember a lot of what I hear. It helps me in these situations because I start tallying those. And if I can catch someone doing that 3, 4 times in one
Hmm.
conversation, like one meeting with them, I'm done.
Yep.
Um, I just have a feeling that if they're that comfortable with white lies, they're gonna be more comfortable with brown than complete lies, and, I'm a little sensitive to it. I myself, I haven't drank in 3 years, I'm sober. I've found my spirituality. I have a very different value system than I used to. And it's put me in great company and great networks of people where I don't have to worry about these kinds of things. But that would be one of them. Another one is really anything that violates your value system. Those two things in that equation of it, can I trust this person? If
Mhm.
you have a serious value you've identified and they violate it, I'll give you an example. My partner that robbed me,
Mm.
um, he was 12 years older than me, right? I'm the tech genius or whatever, and he's the guy with all the connections to Pakistan for all of our offshore labor.
Yep.
I ignored the fact that he got his fake residency here through like a marriage he paid for,
Mm.
right?
Yep.
I'm 19, he's 31. I just thought it wasn't my place, dismissed it, but loyalty is it's a very high value to me. I'm very
Yep.
loyal. I live in my small town. I have a large community of friends I've known since I was little. Like loyalty is very important to me. And that right there is a violation of my value system. So I would
Yeah.
immediately write someone off. If I catch someone, committing adultery or anything like that, I'm out.
Yep.
And alternatively, this might sound crazy, but if you were to tell me you were a drug addict and you were honest about it and told me that you were high or not high, consequently, I am more likely to work with that person than someone who violates those two rules I just described,
Sure.
honestly, because they're
Yeah.
upfront, transparent. I don't know, and it depends on the work. If they're doing data entry and the guy smokes meth, then I'm going to be like, okay, that's fine. Just don't tell me. I
Mhm.
appreciate you being honest. I won't test you, but I bet he could crack out some
Mhm.
data entry. So, it's just stuff like that. I
Yeah.
take it very seriously now. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
The
I
hon
urge any entrepreneur to pay attention to that because
Yeah.
those things add up. It does indicate something, their
Absolutely.
behavior.
Yeah. I think the values are important. Honesty is important. As well as just the integrity, like you said, if somebody says they are always something and then they are not demonstrating that in reality, then there's some disconnect right there that would really lend itself to making that decision that this is not the right fit for you. So it makes sense to move on in that relationship. Now,
A
for
tip.
some, go ahead.
I'll say a tip for the viewers: don't drink around them. And then order them and buy them drinks.
Yep.
That's a good one. I use
Yeah.
that against people all the time now, and I can learn a lot about someone when they're loaded.
Sure. Right. Right. I mean, that's a good good example of, well, how do you handle that situation? And what if you do go into that relationship though, and now you've decided, okay, there's something wrong here. What would you recommend to somebody that's now into that already and they have now identified those concerns?
Be proactive.
Okay. Yep.
Depending on how severe, I I would say on the mild end of the spectrum, I would literally like make a note of it, and if you don't have a great memory, write it down.
Mhm.
And just try to check the severity over a period of time in your mind. It's subjective, but I would just make note of it.
Yep.
And if it's like severe, like you met his girlfriend of 10 years who he has another kid with,
Mhm.
because you got to think 10 years going to bed with another chick and going to bed with your wife, if they're willing to betray the sanctity of their marriage with
Mhm.
God and risk half their life in absolute torture for the remainder of their years on this earth, most likely, right?
Yep. Yep.
They're definitely okay screwing you over. I don't care how you feel about it. They're
Mhm.
100% okay doing it to you because they're not even sleeping with you.
Sure.
So, the proactivity would be if you're that worried, especially if you're dealing with a lot of money like in a hedge fund, like, it has to be instant. Get an
Yeah.
attorney, draw the papers up, and don't even let them know that you're making moves like that. You want to be able to
Yep.
have a full hand when you play it.
Yep.
I would just be proactive and, trust a snake to bite you. You know,
Sure.
if you can identify it as a snake, yeah.
Yeah.
And just think about how they could hurt you. Think of all the things that could go wrong. And just
Yeah.
be proactive.
Absolutely. I think it's a solid suggestion. Now, you did mention the diversity in which you have been engaged in regards to business. So, from power washing to hedge fund Now let's talk a little bit about that. What are you doing now, and how did you go, or how did you make that diversification from power washing to hedge fund?
Yeah, it's wild, right? So my whole life I've been in tech.
Yep.
Um, I've never really paid myself out of the businesses. I've just consulted on the side for money, because I just have
Hmm.
a moral issue with raising money and then paying myself. I just don't like
Sure.
it. Um,
Uh-huh.
so I've been consulting, and I just basically went all in on consulting after my last venture.
Yep.
And so, and I do pretty much everything. I've done every step of the SDLC process. So like dev, test, QA, enterprise architecture. I haven't coded in years, but
Hmm.
I do more management level stuff with very large companies to small startups, depending on what they need. Interim CIO work or agile coaching, kind of.
Okay.
It's kind of my thing. But I was doing that, and I'm making really great money. And my friends, like I said, I have a large community of people that I've known a long time.
Yeah.
They needed help financially, and they didn't really have a lot of skill sets. They didn't go to college, and their options were limited.
Yep.
I had money, and I'm an entrepreneur, so I helped start the Wet Boys Power Washing. Bought all the equipment, got all the software set up to get inbound leads. First season we did like 11,000, then we did like
Hmm.
80, and then we'll probably do 300 this season. We've been
All right.
growing like crazy.
Yes.
So I did that to help them. I still haven't taken any money out of that. I've given up the majority of my equity. Like I'm a
Hmm.
10% partner just to help them with business stuff because they're doing everything else and
Yep.
they're crushing it. I can't take credit for anything they're doing um, anymore outside of paying taxes and not
Yep.
going to jail. So
Yeah.
um, then I make content related to crypto, and it's because I've made a lot of money doing that,
Hmm.
and I know quite a lot about it. I've been underwriting and researching that industry for a long time, probably since 2018,
Okay.
2019. I've been
Right.
investing since 2017, and it's just something I'm very passionate about. It's changed my life, and I basically have a bunch of high net worth individuals and qualified investors in my network because of the consulting and just being an entrepreneur for so long. I relate to them more than most people in my
Hmm.
generation. So they were like, "If you're making this kind of money, like you should do this for us and people like us, and you'd make a lot
Hmm.
more." And a few of them wanted to partner,
Yep.
so I started a hedge fund last May, and I primarily just make content documenting the research for the fund. So those are kind of just married. Like I'm not even. I'm kind of double. I'm habit stacking. If you've read Atomic Habits, but
Hmm.
I'm just basically documenting the summarizations I come to from my research for the hedge fund and post it on TikTok, YouTube, everywhere else as JT knows things, and that's like a media business I have. Um, and then the hedge fund and the consulting. That's what I do pretty much all day,
Yeah.
um, except for Sundays when I do the books for the power washing business. So
Yeah. Okay. So with that said, I mean, with the number of individuals that you're working with, you said that you have a network of individuals that have high net worth that you've consulted with or have some relationship and connection with. They've identified you've had success in the crypto markets. If somebody wanted to connect with you and find out more about that, what is the best way for them to connect with you on it?
yeah, you can basically click the link tree on any of my platforms
Hmm.
at JT knows things.
Yeah.
All no spaces. JT knows
Okay.
things, and you'll find me on any of your platforms you prefer: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube.
Yep.
Um, and then the fund is Bleeding Edge Capital, right? Well, that's the
Hmm.
GP, and then the fund is Advanced Spectrum Fund. But you can find us on Edgar if you're a professional in the financial services industry. We have all of our filings in Reg D.
Hmm.
Um, and if you're just some rich person that doesn't have crypto, I would be the guy to talk to. We're doing really well, and the markets have recovered greatly. I think
Yeah.
it's irresponsible to not have 5% of your you know of your portfolio in crypto. That's my pitch because really 5% could outperform the other 95% in long enough time horizons, and it's worth the risk.
Now, if you could take a couple minutes, there are some people who really have no understanding of cryptocurrency.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that in a maybe layman's terms format so that somebody who might be concerned about putting money in cryptocurrency, something they're not familiar with, could maybe start considering that as an option.
Well, I would say that it's not a currency.
Okay.
That's the first thing. I want to give them nuggets of information as a professional so they could at least have the confidence to start researching.
Hmm.
My first tip on YouTube to anyone out there is to go through crypto or coin market cap, read the top 50 websites like by market cap, just go down the list, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so on, and read everything and Google words you don't understand. If you did that for like 50 hours, you'd be ahead of 95% of the market. Because it's an ignorant market. It is. And it's really easy to get an edge in an ignorant market.
Hmm.
Um, so the first thing you need to understand is these are not currencies. This is not going for the US dollar. It's not competing with the Swiss franc. It is not built primarily to be a medium of exchange.
Hmm.
99% of these tokens have been built for other purposes, not a currency.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean there aren't some that are, but it's not the entire industry. This is the evolution of the internet. Um, there's a great concept, and I can't take credit for it, but read, write, own. Talking about the beginning of the internet, middle of the internet, and what's to come. Because we really are in the middle of it until quantum computing and everything else. It's just hard for people to see around the corner. But in the beginning, all computers could do is read.
Hmm.
Right? That's Web 1.0, that's basically DARPANET. It's the government just building computers and networks with private companies doing, undercover stuff until 1989 came, and then the dot com era came because that's when it became available for commercial use. That's what dot com actually means. So that allowed us to write. We could post a website. We could read other people's websites, but we could also write or code and publish something. We could transmit information through the internet now. Read, write. What blockchain allows us to do now is own. Read, write, and own. We can read and write. Even what we're doing right now, this live stream, I'm
Hmm.
writing, you're writing to the interface that someone else is reading. It's just reading and writing. You don't even own anything we're doing here. This
Hmm.
is owned by Realstream or wherever this data is on the server. That's not yours. If they didn't like what you were doing here, what I was saying here, it could be axed without notifying you at all. You own nothing in this situation. Neither do I. It's just how the internet got built out. With blockchain, we can basically allow people to own things online now. And I know that's kind of weird to think of digital property rights, but it is going to become it already is becoming a serious concern with cancel culture and some of these new startups like Kick taking over Twitch because they have better policies regarding this kind of stuff. Like we are seeing this become more important. I'm telling you, 10 years from now, being able to own digital property is going to be very important. If it's your data or not, and what's the value of that data, because data is just eating our world. Everything has data
Hmm.
now. Your car probably has 10,000 fields it tracks and reports to someone somewhere with a database that you have no control over.
Hmm.
So blockchain is a technology or it's they're just basically protocols, which are instruction manuals to the internet that tell the internet basically how to publish a deed for anything that gets written. Essentially, there's like a digital deed. If I'm going super layman, that's how I would
Yep.
try to explain it.
Yep. I love it. And I think that's important for people to really get that foundation. If somebody wants to go a little more in depth, do you have content already available at JT Knows Things that they can find out a little bit more?
Yep, yeah. Just go to the channel and type in what. All
Yeah.
of my educational videos are that. We're building a playlist and eventually a course, but um, I got a lot of stuff going on, so it's taking
Yeah.
time to get that laid down. But
Yep.
yeah, I got tons of stuff like that, and also just reach out. I'm very adamant about educating, and I'd love to do some content with you if you do reach out. We could
Yeah.
do a short like this and spin up some TikToks of me just educating. We could get you on the podcast, because Crypto Classroom really is where I educate
Yep.
beginners on the technology. So people, and before we zip out, I got to do this because this is a really important thing people understand. Like
Yeah.
price theory, something like in a market or anything else, it is only worth what the balancing of the buys and sells permit, right?
Hmm.
It's like a ball being bounced on a paddle. Gravity is the cells, and then someone hitting the paddle, the buy button, is bouncing that price. And when you see a candle, you could almost think of the top and the bottom of the wick as a ball's range of motion as it's bouncing.
Hmm.
That's how I like to do it. And once you understand that this hand is the thing that's keeping the price up, and you can understand what's controlling this hand, their mind, their information. When they click the
Yep.
buy button, they're saying, I think it's going to be worth more later. Okay. So, really, all that matters is what you know about that thing. And if you know more than the other guy about that thing, you can make better decisions. You'll have more conviction and you'll make more money.
Yep.
If you actually knew what Bitcoin was, you wouldn't have sold it $100 when you bought it in 2011.
Hmm.
If you knew what it was, you would have bought more in this recent bear market like I did.
Yep.
Well, if you actually knew what this stuff was, you would be sitting on around 400%. I mean, that's what I've been able to do in the past 2 years. And I've made very little trades. I'm a discretionarily long investor. I trade the
Hmm.
cycles. So, why I make content, why I'm passionate about, crypto and educating, and why my thing is JT knows things, it's
Hmm.
because when you're in a market, the only leverage you truly have that no one can take from you is your knowledge, and you can earn it for free.
Yeah.
You just got to put in the time to learn it.
Yep.
And this market is fresh, it's new, and it's ignorant. You do
Hmm.
not have to learn a lot to do well. And I'm very
Yeah.
passionate about trying to help the middle class not get slaughtered, really. 'Cause it's going to
Uh,
happen. They're going to get printed into oblivion. So
yeah.
I just
Well,
worry for crypto's the
yeah.
great equalizer. It is.
Yeah, well, I love that. I love that what you're doing is it sounds very personal and that you're really trying to focus on helping to educate others and that you're learning and continuing to grow in your experience and your knowledge of what you have found to be helpful for your own personal experience, but also that you can bring to others and help to create that great equalizer as you just stated. So I
Yeah.
want to ask you one more question that I like to ask all my guests. If you were to be handed $1 million today, no strings attached to it, you can put that anywhere you want. How would you invest that into your business and or another endeavor and why?
Shit, give me the strings. I got a private placement memorandum. You can sign it right now, bud. I would love $1,000,000. It's what I do all day.
Yep.
Give me $1,000,000. I will invest it into my spread of assets across 8 industries, almost 50 tokens
Hmm.
in crypto. I
Okay.
would put you across an actively managed conservative fund that outperforms 98% of all funds in the world,
Hmm.
according to Prekin. I don't know what funds aren't on Prekin, but that is the
Sure.
database. I got to make sure I specify that from the lawyer because he couldn't believe it, but I have to say that. On Prekin, there's 41,000 funds. My fund is 130.
Yep.
We are getting 73% a quarter. So I would put it into what I'm doing. It
Yeah.
feels like
Absolutely.
alchemy right now to me. That's the bull market. It'll always do that. I'm thinking it's halfway cooked. So
Hmm.
I'll be pulling profits sometime here soon. But
Yeah.
that's exactly what I would do. And I like all the strings that come with that million the way I got it set up right now. So you don't got to do no strings attached.
Well, I love that. I think that's great that you identify that what you're doing is effective and it's working for yourself or others, and that it's making a difference, and that you can help people with that process. So I would encourage people to reach out to Jake to find out more about his work and the experiences that he's had at JT Notes things. And like you said, he's open. He wants to educate people. He wants to help others. So reach out, connect, and find out more. So JT, I want to appreciate you just coming on today and just to share your experiences. You've been burned in the past, learn from that experience, continue to educate yourself, and continue to work to help yourself and others as you grow in this process.
Thank you, brother. I had
Yeah,
fun. Thanks for having me.
absolutely. Yeah, of course. Anytime. I'd love to follow up again and find out more with where you're at in the future. So let's bring
Yeah,
this on again in the future.
do the next one in the bear market to see if my enthusiasm changes, because I promise you it won't.
Sounds
I
good. I
actually
love it.
prefer bear markets, brother. I miss them.
All
I miss
right.
it all. So
We will
I
do
love
that. Sounds good. Let's stay in touch and we'll be bringing you back in the future. Thanks again.